Hey, sorry about that. The last video cut off, but it was in good timing for the most part because I was pretty much wrapped up. But I hate to leave a video cut off, especially on such a serious topic. The last thing that I was saying is that at this point, what anyone has been able to evade in physical justice, actual official justice, meaning the law of the land, will be redeemed or what's the right word? Avenged. I don't know what the word is I'm trying to find, but it'll be recouped in spiritual justice. So nobody is evading their karma in this case. And to that point, nobody's evading their dharma. So those that were on the other end, the vulnerable end of these schemes and plots that are still alive by God to tell the story and that are conscious enough to know the impact that's been made on their lives or has been made, on their person in some regard, they're going to receive what's just due to them. As I said with the Job story, when it all came down to it, he was replenished, regenerated beyond where he started in the first place. So not only will you be recouped and regenerated and rejuvenated for whatever time, energy, money, property value, people, opportunities, whatever you felt was lost, first of all, especially when we're talking about so-called friends, family, and hidden foes, hidden enemies, whatever you thought you lost, it was meant to be lost in some regard. Even though that's a hard pill to swallow, it's the truth. You know what I mean? Like, this all happened for the purposes of ultimately unveiling some reality, some hidden reality that had been veiled for a long time. For some, I say the past 10 years, but for some of us, there's been work happening since we were born. Maybe when we were even in the womb, we were being targeted for some level of emotional, spiritual, energetic, maybe even physical abuse in some way, let alone the financial piece of it all. So there's that, but that's another topic for another day. This scheme is the most centric focus at this time. And I just wanted to wrap it up by saying that justice and judgment has already been called, first and foremost, that even those that still think they're getting over, they're just spinning their wheels at this point in time, and even that is karmic in a sense, because who the hell wants to be living in a state of scarcity and despair for material things? If that's the karma of it all and that's all it gets to be in the world that we're moving into, that's detrimental in itself. Because as long as you're still in the spirit of measuring yourself by what you have, you're never going to have enough, and you're always going to feel impoverished in spirit and in truth and depleted. You're always going to feel like you got to do more to have more. And that may have been the ambition and the motivation for the old world, but this new world order, a new world cycle, is to be in the spirit of satisfaction, for all things, to literally be satisfied with what you have, and I would say sensationalized in that same regard. So it's not just like a complacency where it's like, oh, well, this is good enough, I don't need no more. No, there's a sensation for more, but through the satisfaction of what is present, where a lot of the acquisitions and the ambitions of the old world order were on account of feeling unsatisfied with what you have and who you are and what you feel worthy of and so on and so forth, and always being fueled by the sensation to want to gratify that satisfaction, want to fill that void of self-satisfaction with material things that are ultimately fleeting. Like, you can't exchange your spirit and your soul for material goods or money. It's an uneven exchange there. And that's what people that were involved in the scheme are unfortunately finding out the hard way. They had many opportunities to figure out, to read that handwriting on the wall and to change, and maybe perhaps some did. I sure hope so, before it all blew up to shit. But most people didn't, because they were so deep invested in, again, that sensibility, that sensation for satisfaction, and you know what I'm trying to say. Ultimately, lust and greed is what it came down to. That they were drawn deeper into that investment beyond what even they could truly truly justify, even in a material sense, like over investing from their own, overdrawing their own accounts to stay invested in every way, like not just materially, but energetically, depleting themselves, spiritually depleting themselves, mentally, physically depleting themselves, just to stick into this thing to the bitter end. And the end is in fact bitter for anyone that was so insistent and persistent. Anyone that backed out will probably receive, some type of, like you get a leniency for cooperation. If you found cooperation and within your own spirit, and then unto Supreme Source to say, you know what, I don't care what the cost is, I'm out of here. Like, I'm not doing this no more, I got to go. There may be some loss, but it certainly won't be those that was lying, killing, stealing, and destroying down to the bitter end. Even up until now, still plotting and scheming for Halloween to be a big monster mash, when the party is over. The party is over. It's over. The lights are off. The freaking floor is swept. The doors are locked. All of the employees of the establishment have gone home. We're done here, like we're really done here. So whatever is left to recoup is redemption unto the Supreme Source. You're not recouping anything in a material aspect, especially that was not due to you in the first place. And what you didn't catch, what legal hands you didn't catch, you definitely going to catch them spiritual hands. So you should brace yourself accordingly before the rug is pulled from under you. Really brace yourself and ground yourself on what's most important. Get your house in order, your finances in order, get your defense ready, whatever the case may be. Like, set your affairs in order. I hope you got a great insurance policy, as a matter of fact, which I'm sure you do. And it's not just the policy of other people that have at this point defaulted and ain't going to be paid out. Like, it's denied and declined at this point. So now you're going to have to rely on what you have stored up in your own house, of your own resources, and pray it be enough to sustain you and whatever generations are going to be here ultimately to inherit the karma that you have created. Congratulations, you played yourself, is what it comes down to. Thus says the Spirit. So that's that, and I'm done with this, because this is taking me into energies that I ain't even come here for. This was supposed to be informative, but I just want to close it out and bring, closure to this aspect of what I'm saying. There may be more that I have to say on the subject at another time. If something pops up and it's like, oh, and another thing, then that's what I'm here for this season. I'm not holding back. I'm going to speak freely as it is impressed upon me, and just let it, transmit accordingly. So again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Don't allow this story to crystallize for you if it is not true. But just know, I think it's more so, even if it's not you, because this is something universal that has been making an impact. Even if you weren't directly impacted by this type of vibration, this is what's been happening universally, that the bottom tier of humanity has been vampirized beyond their conscious conception for the sake of the top of the tier to benefit most. And now that balance is inverted, and I'm speaking of it in a very specific way because it has been happening very, very specifically, but it's also been happening universally, globally, nationally. This is not just limited to the United States. This is global. That there's been an involvement of offshore accounts, of policies on foreign peoples, especially one country to another, because there's much less of a trace on those individuals. You know, if you got a policy on somebody in Mexico or in, you know, Africa or London or Asia or whatever, it's hard to trace that energy back to someone in the United States. So this is not, it's not limited to one place, one person, one agency, one corporation, one concept of creativity. Like, this is the energetic force that's been out here, sucking up all of the prosperity that should have been divulged equally and fairly amongst the people that rightfully has belonged to people. Like, literally, people not even knowing that they have inheritances, and somebody coming, you know, using their resources to look into your documents. And that was the other part that I didn't say. I feel like another way they got family involved is because some family members knew of inheritances and did the first diabolical diligence by hiding it from you. So them hiding it from you ultimately left them open to be vulnerable to extortion or to what is it? To manipulation, but more so blackmail. Because then you get the energy, that middleman that swoops in and says, you know, I see that so-and-so has a property in this place and that place, and she was left $100,000, you know, small change, you know, probably much more, and from so-and-so relative back in so-and-so year. Where is that? Because they see you and they know you don't look like you operating in you don't look like no trust fund baby to them. And here you got a whole freaking dynasty just sitting somewhere with your name on it, disconnected from you because family members don't want you to have access to it because they don't have access to it, or there's some jealousy there. So it's like the devil had, you know, that devil energy seeped in different ways to prime the soil for this big, you know, horrific harvest as it was. But it was trickery all across the board. All it did was just harvest those souls that engaged themselves accordingly. Nobody was ever getting what they thought they were getting. Nobody. That's why what was is more or less down to nothing or depreciated in such a way because it doesn't even hold the value of what it started with. You know, not compared to the detriment that's been done to the spirit and to the soul. You could have $1 million in the bank and can't sleep every night. So what does it matter? You know? So it's like all that diabolical energy did from the top down, from the bottom up, is just harvest those souls. Like wherever the loophole it could find to you know, slip that rope around your neck, around your foot at best, and rope you into the madness is how it did so. And unless you were strong enough to release yourself, to repent, change your mind, change your ways, do something different, forget the cost, forget the casualties, forget the loss, and disconnect from that diabolical force, oh, you in there, you owe, and you're going to pay like you owe, one way or another, in spirit or in truth. You're going to pay like you owe. You're going to pay what you owe. Somebody's coming to collect in one way, shape, or form, or perhaps in every way, shape, and form. You may owe all around if you didn't, you know, sell off that stock fast enough and release your spirit. So that's the unfortunate aspect of it, is that some people that didn't even know what they were truly getting themselves into, it was just small change, small fry stuff. Like I said, you hide an insurance policy or a payout or inheritance, and now somebody over your head sees that you hiding it, and they come in and say, well, if you don't invest that with us, or if they can't have access to it, they're pretty much threatening, well, we're going to tell that you've been hiding it. And so then they fear for their pride and ego. Their pride and ego activates, and they get afraid that they're going to be exposed, and they're like, well, shit, well, what I got to do to be invested so you don't tell? So it's just a small payment of, you know, $29.99 a month is all you got. You know what I mean? Like something minimal to get you invested, and then each month, just like how you get reeled into like criminal activity. It's like once you in there, what you gonna do? Say never mind? Say give me my money back? Say I'm out of this? Blood in, blood out? either way, they were still going to be holding that blackmail over your head to say, well, if you don't do this, we're going to do that. No, so you never would have had an opportunity to say no without a loss anyway. It was just a matter of you feeling like the more invested you became, the more probability there was for you to find a positive solution out. There was never a positive solution because the best case scenario was the demise, the definite demise of someone that was beloved. Even if you didn't love them, they were beloved by someone, and nobody has the authority to impose a timeline on someone else's mortality beyond the divine and beyond the supreme source of all. How dare you play God in that way? How dare you collude with demonic forces that play God in that way, even if it was for your own safety and security? Was it worth it is the question at hand. Did it pan out? Did you really save your ass the way that you thought you would? You damn sure didn't save your soul. So I guess if you still have breath in your body to hear at this point, even energetically, because it's not that I expect that people that everyone that's been doing this is going to hear this message, but for sure, the ones that, when I speak, it's energetic. So I'm speaking a truth into the atmosphere, and it lands in the spiritual realm in a way that disseminates universally. I believe that truth. So the truth of it all is what I'm generating, not the communication itself. It's the spirit of truth that I'm transmitting. So the question is, what truly was worth it when it all comes down to it? Because like I said, if there's still breath in the body, you can absolutely still have some hope to regenerate a new possibility. You won't have to pay what you owe, like I said, one way or another, but you may still have an opportunity to make good on your energetic investment on the back end, or the front end. I don't know, whichever way it pans itself out to be, because everything's so topsy-turvy and frontwards, backwards, and upside down that people probably don't even know they mouth from their asshole right now. Because what hasn't taken over physically is probably ravaging them energetically and spiritually by way of their conscious and guilt and shame and all of those energies that we were supposed to be releasing in this lifetime, releasing and putting to rest for our generations past and future, to live a life that's free and whole and healed in this time. In this existence, we were the chosen generations to be able to champion the quality of life in that regard. But it all came down to what choices that you made, what ways you had chose to invest your energy up until this point as to what, your ultimate harvest for, when I'm talking about investments, I really mean like your not deposit, but your withdrawal or savings. I don't know what your portfolio really gets to be in real time. Best case scenario is to, in this case, I don't say this often, but cut your losses, count your wins. Because the win is that you still have a chance, you still have breath, you still have opportunity for future to do something different, have a different outcome, be something different, most importantly, and look forward to a future. Everything that has been passed, that has been lost, wasn't nobody from Enron able to recoup any time from the employees, from their 401ks or whatever their investment agencies, however the investments worked back then. Everything was lost. Those people had to pick up and go figure it out somewhere else. And many of them didn't even know that they were a part of anything scandalous. That's the messed up part of it. They didn't know, but they were. You know, they were implicated by association, and so therefore they lost in that same regard. Everybody lost. But what they had was the opportunity to pick up, go apply somewhere else, go find some other place of employment, some other business that was in the upright, and begin to start build life in a fresh new way. And that is the hope and the prospect for anyone on any end of the spectrum at this point in time, whether you felt like you were vulnerable to these energies or whether you felt like, you know, you were an accessory to the crimes. You know, whatever it is, the karma and dharma that is released, you know, what the ultimate turnover is for everything is justifiable in spirit and in truth at this point. You take what you've been awarded and you move forward, period. And hopefully you don't make another bad investment again. You learn from your previous mistakes. So that's that on that. Day before Halloween, you know, there was a reason why there was an urgency for this message today, and I'm fine with having to be the transmitter. It is what it is. I can speak to it directly in spirit and in truth, and I don't mind. So like I said, if anything comes up again for me to share, I will certainly be back for more or less, however you look at this BS. Bars. But yeah, just take that into account and govern yourselves accordingly. Protect your assets in spirit and in truth. As I've been saying relentlessly, be mindful of who is around you, who wants to be around you, who's coming back, that has been, you know, gone from the scene, and all of a sudden they emerge and want to reconnect and rekindle an old flame, or, you know, all that stuff. Like, I had an interesting dream last night. I'm definitely not going to go into it, but I'm even realizing now how it's directly impacted this message in a certain way. And it was faces coming up in places that have been passed, and faces coming up that I have disconnected from, in places that I have since, you know, passed, that I have moved on from. And that's and it was an underworld type of vibe. So that's just saying to me that people are still at it. They're still trying to figure out what angles they can work to pull themselves out of diabolical straits at this point in time. And it's just a word to the wise and to the wicked. Party's over. Season is changed. Cycles have changed. The celestials have spoken, and Source has overruled all. So please save yourself the trouble and the energetic loss of any sort at this point anymore, to just move on. Just move on. With all the breath in your body, with all the willpower you can muster, it's time to move on for everyone. It's time. All right, so for the rest of us, protect yourself accordingly. Be careful where you're going for Halloween, for parties, for holidays, for engagements, for festivities. For if it don't feel right, it ain't right, leave, move, excuse yourself, excuse the energy. Release yourself from any vulnerability to anything that has not presented itself to be a force of vitality in spirit and in truth. It is so, and so it is. All right. So I'll talk to you next time. Until then, peace.